The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning, everyone. It is 5 a.m. on this Thursday morning. I'm Alex Fisher alongside Chris Burton. He's in for Maddie Jansen this morning. And we begin this morning with a tragedy that has worsened Kern's already record number of pedestrian deaths. A brother and sister were struck and killed by a car that ran off Panama Lane yesterday afternoon in South Bakersfield. The driver, identified by Bakersfield police as 46-year-old Lisa Kaur, and she was arrested for murder and suspicion of driving under the influence. The brother and sister have been identified by family as 19-year-old J.J. Malone and 10-year-old Kaylee Brown. Police say they were standing on the corner of Panama and Hammond Way around 1:15 yesterday afternoon when the westbound sedan crossed the eastbound lanes and jumped the curb on the south side of Panama. After hitting the pedestrians, the car hit a tree. Family members said they believed that Kaylee had been dropped at the corner by a school bus, and JJ met her there on a bicycle when the car hit them. BPD says Kaur, who was hurt in the crash, is a previously convicted DUI driver. She has been denied bail. These two deaths raised the number of pedestrians killed on Kern County roads this year to 53. That grim count is the worst year on record. The family has set up a GoFundMe page, and for a link you can visit our website, kget.com.
Meantime, one person is dead after a crash on the 178 just west of the split to Golden State Avenue. According to California Highway Patrol, the crash was first reported just before 3 p.m. near the Union off-ramp. One car flipped over and at least one person was ejected. That person was killed. No further information has been made available as of news time.
Kern County is turning a new chapter in how it responds to our homeless population with a controversial unlawful camping ordinance taking effect today. This new law designed to prevent people from camping or placing personal items in public areas during certain times of day. The ordinance also facilitates the coordination of teams of counselors, mental health professionals, law enforcement, and others to ease unsheltered people through a process that would eventually put them into permanent housing. The ordinance says that if the resources are not available, then it will be enforced with discretion.
17 News is your local election headquarters. The once-a-decade process of redistricting is in full swing across the state. Last night, it was Bakersfield's turn to hear from the community on the redrawing of its city council wards. 17's Maddie Gannon has more.
So the city of Bakersfield is definitely growing. We experienced a growth rate of about 16%, very high above the California average.
As the city prepares to redraw its 7 ward boundaries, Bakersfield population growth from the 2010 census to 2020s could bring some meaningful changes.
And 2 of the large outliers of our city wards are wards 2 and wards 3. But we will likely see some changes to those ward boundaries to make sure that we can strive for that more average population.
The city must ensure each district's population does not deviate too far below or above the set average. And when creating the lines, it looks closely at a list of criteria, one of which was the focus of Wednesday's virtual gathering.
If you think you have an argument for a community of interest, you're probably right.
The city defines a community of interest as a group of people in a geographic area that share a common social or economic interest. And although Wednesday's meeting drew a quiet crowd, one politically active group, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, was there to give input.
Finally, I would like our criminal justice system impacted populations to be considered a community of interest, especially as relates to those areas in the city where there are verified racially restrictive covenants and a history of redlining.
17's Maddie Gannon reporting. 5:07 is our time now, and after nearly 2 years of negotiations, thousands of county employees will see a boost in pay. The Service Employees International Union Chapter president says the new agreement with the county will improve retention by increasing compensation for more than 4,000 workers represented by the union. The tentative agreement was reached on November 17th. It is expected to be approved and implemented at the next Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting next Tuesday.
The Kern County Sheriff's Office celebrated more than a dozen promotions yesterday. 18 employees went up in rank with the KCSO. Sheriff Donnie Youngblood congratulated each person and thanked them for their service.
Congratulations to each of you. You are the future of this organization. We're extremely proud to support you, and we know you're going to go forth and do an incredible job for not only the other employees that work here, but for the citizens of Kern County who we serve.
Employees from several departments were recognized, including those in detentions, dispatchers, and deputies.
The Bakersfield National Cemetery unveiled its recent installation of more than 40 flagpoles after a decade of working on the project. 44 flagpoles were installed in the cemetery, leading towards the area where the 5 military branch pillars stand watching over the property. The flagpoles can be seen in most areas across the cemetery. Those who made the installation happen say the flags are both a show of appreciation and an important reminder.
The flagpoles go up as a reminder of this patriotic display of one of the important things that we think is how critical it is to teach our children the role that veterans played in the freedoms that we enjoy today in the country and how we got to where we are today in our country.
Because of strong winds in the area, officials say the flags can be removed and will only be put up during special events.
The Kern County Fair is one of the greatest in the nation, and now there's data to prove it. A new poll puts our county fair as the 22nd best fair in the country, according to carnivalwarehouse.com. It jumped 24 spots from the year before. You might remember the fair shut down last year due to the pandemic, but came back this past fall. Fair officials call the jump an amazing accomplishment, although it may be because many fairs stayed closed last year due to an increase in COVID cases.
Protecting kids online is front and center once again for senators on Capitol Hill. Members from both parties grilled Instagram CEO on the negative effects the social media platform can have on teens. Instagram's leader outlined new tools to protect young users, but stirred more controversy by not backing away from a plan to tailor a version of the app toward kids. NBC's Alice Barr reports from Washington.
Too little, too late.
A tense first appearance before Congress for Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri.
You better tell the truth. You're under oath.
In the hot seat after a whistleblower leaked documents showing the social media platform knows it can be harmful to teens.
Social media can fan those flames and fuel the fires of the mental health crisis that we face among teens.
The U.S. Surgeon General this week issuing a rare public health advisory warning of a youth mental health crisis during the pandemic and calling on social media companies to counter the damage some users report.
It definitely makes everyone, and especially girls, feel bad about themselves, especially when, there's such an unattainable beauty standard.
Ahead of Wednesday's Senate hearing, Instagram announced new controls for young users, including encouraging them to take breaks and starting this spring, letting parents see how long their teens spend on the app and set limits. The company also calling for federal regulation.
We believe in more transparency and accountability, and we believe in more control.
Senator Mike Lee said his staff created a fake account for a 13-year-old girl and said Instagram suggested inappropriate content.
After we followed a famous female celebrity, it changed and it went dark fast.
If we recommended something that we shouldn't have, I'm accountable for that.
While promising to do better, Mosseri said he would not stop developing a kids version of Instagram, insisting it's more responsible to offer an age-appropriate option. The push to regulate social media platforms is gaining ground with bipartisan support on Capitol Hill, but it will still be a challenge to get any legislation through Congress. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Tracking the coronavirus across the nation, the Senate last night voted to pass a resolution that defunds and repeals President Biden's vaccine mandate. The measure, which only needed a simple majority to pass, was pushed over the line by every Republican and 2 Democrats voting for the measure. Moderate Democratic Senators John Tester of Montana and Joe Manchin of West Virginia voted in favor of the resolution. Senate Republicans say they have no problem with the vaccine, but that a mandate is, quote, unconstitutional. The resolution faces long odds passing the House. And the White House has suggested that if the resolution makes it to President Biden's desk, he will veto it.
The head of the World Health Organization is urging countries to accelerate their vaccination programs to slow the spread of the Omicron variant. That variant has been discovered in more than a third of the country. The head of drug maker Pfizer says new laboratory tests show its COVID vaccine is less effective against the new Omicron variant for people who have just had 2 shots. But protection jumps with the booster. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are expected to release their vaccine's lab results for the Omicron variant in the coming days.
Now to the coronavirus pandemic here in Kern County. Kern Public Health confirmed 313 new cases yesterday and 14 new deaths. More than 1,800 people have died in Kern County since the pandemic began, and more than 50,000 people have been infected since the COVID-19 vaccine became widely available. According to the state, there are 141 people in Kern hospitals, and 36 more are fighting for their lives in the ICU. Fresno County, meantime, is sending 3 ambulance crews to Kern to help ease our overtaxed ambulance system. Kern Public Health says they're simply not able to keep up with increasing 911 calls. Health officials say the number of people in the hospital with COVID-19 continues to burden the system, and people have postponed necessary medical care because of the pandemic.
Turning now to the statewide drought, and as conditions are worsening in Bakersfield, the city is once again requiring residents to cut back on water. Starting Tuesday, the City of Bakersfield's Water Resources Department mandatory water restrictions will begin for all city residents and in the domestic water system and domestic water systems customers. These restrictions are to remain in place until further notice. The Stage 2 drought mitigation plan restrictions include limiting lawn water or any outdoor irrigation to 3 days a week and only between 6 p.m. to 9 a.m.
In your 17 Crime Watch, the Kern County District Attorney's Office is cracking down on the rise in catalytic converter thefts here at home. District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer says since 2020, the theft of catalytic converters has skyrocketed by 200% in Kern County and 300% in Bakersfield. That's why they're holding a free catalytic converter etching event this Saturday. Technicians from the Bakersfield College Automotive Program will etch the vehicle's catalytic converter with the last 8 characters of the vehicle's VIN number. Technicians will also paint the converters in a bright color to warn buyers that the parts may be stolen. Saturday's event will be held at the 3-Way Chevrolet Service Department located on Weibel Road in southwest Bakersfield. Advanced registration is required and the number of available appointments are limited. So to register, visit kget.com.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.